We are in week 4 of the Enlightened Changemaker series, and tonight's guest is the very enlightened LK Tommi, teacher of me, myself, and I. LK Tommi works as an educator in the field of education and psychology. Her passion is to teach young people to develop self-mastery through teaching them the connections and understanding of our body and brain. When LK Tommi teaches this to young people, they discover from an early age what their purpose and passion is. This leads them to confidently pursue their life experiences. Many young people who have gone through the teaching of Me, Myself and I course have also gone on to own their own businesses or have realised from a young age the career that they want to have, creating their lives and developing a strong direction for their lives. LK Tommi has created a saying, creating generations, creating lives one step at a time. The children of the next generation are going to be busier than this generation, creating new careers and innovations for our society. Therefore, it is essential that young people learn the skills of self-mastery and become a teacher of themselves. LK Tommi would like to see the change of every young person being able to develop the skills of self-mastery from a young age. What a blessing that is. She says, we can't stop young people from having negative experiences, but we can teach them how to understand the experience and then move on to the next. In our lifetime, we have millions of experiences, some good, some bad, some in between. When people learn the skills of self-mastery, this results in a proactive approach to mental health difficulties, aggressive behaviour, domestic violence, which are all behaviours in society that need to stop. These behaviours are present because their brain becomes overwhelmed and they have not learnt yet the skills of emotions, thinking, energy, and how that connects to their life experiences. Imagine what our society would be like if young people learn the skills of self-mastery. Tonight we will be talking about mind health, society readiness for mind health, and a proactive approach. How children can learn the skills to develop mind health at a young age and the difference that this makes through their life. It is my great pleasure and honour to introduce our special guest tonight, LK Tommi. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much, Trish. And thank you so much for my bio. I thought, wow, when is the bio going to end? But it is an inspiration, and I really want to connect with the next generation to help them to develop self-mastery, because that they're going to need that skill, and we can learn it as a skill, which is really, really exciting. So we can learn it just like the skill of maths or the skill of English. We can actually learn now the skill of self-mastery. So it is a proactive approach, and it is a different way of looking at mind health, which is really, really exciting.
Absolutely. And, you know, I've said a couple of times, actually, it must be the energy shift over the last couple of weeks, even to my daughter, actually, who is 28 soon and is learning self-mastery. And I'm like, wow, isn't it fantastic that children are doing this now, or people in their 20s, rather than waiting till they're 50 like me, right? It's like,
I was about the 30s. I was about in my 30s and 40s before I really learned the skills of self-mastery. So I'm so excited now to share that with 7-year-olds, so they can learn the skills of self-mastery a lot younger. And it's amazing. They love to learn it. You know, when I first started, I mean, I've been doing it for about 10 to 15 years now. And when I first started working with 7-year-olds and upwards, it was exciting and it was interesting to see how much they actually wanted to learn it and how much that they bring to the learning process, which is really, really exciting. You know, and they say, you know, they come and say now, you know, I've learned this skill. And I say, yay, fantastic.
Isn't that wonderful? Do you think that they were just surprised that somebody actually told them that they had a choice in how they feel? Because a lot of the times they don't get told that.
No,
So,
that's exactly right. And part of my program is I talk to the logical brain. So what I've created is some mathematical equations. So I was working with 6, 12-year-old boys quite a few years ago now, about 10 years ago now. And I always work, when I work visually. So I'm away there on my whiteboard, you know, putting these things up, because these children were sent to me because they needed to learn to get to connect their thoughts and the emotions to the experiences that they were having. I'm going, how am I going to do this? And I've got 6 12-year-old boys. And I'm going, okay, this is a challenge, but, you know, a roast is a challenge. Then there's one day I was writing on my whiteboard, you know, we were playing around with different things. And then I started writing these mathematical equations. So I said to the boys, go and prove or disprove me. I don't know whether I'm right or wrong. We've just created this, you know. Anyway, off they went. And one boy came back and said, the mathematical equation's a little bit wrong. I said, great, what did you learn? And we changed it. Another little boy came in and said, oh, well, it's a little bit wrong. I haven't changed it from his perspective, but I explain that when I do teach it. So, you know, it's really exciting that they were able to link their emotions and thoughts into mathematics. So then we're now talking to the logical brain, and that they were able to prove it. So I call it science mathematics. You know, we talk about science, and mind being a science-based, you know, especially coming out of neuroplasticity research around neuroscience now. So we're calling it a science. I'm going to coin my own new term, mathematical science, because it's logical. And boys need logic. They need to know whether they can go and prove or disprove my theories, you know, or the mathematical equations. So, you know, I say this was, you know, designed for kids by kids in lots of ways, because had I not had that opportunity to work with them, I wouldn't have come up with the mathematical equations that I did. So I'm really honoured to have had that experience with them.
Yeah. So were you teaching? This was the first time you were teaching. So tell me a little bit about how you ended up with those boys, teaching them. And, you know, what were you kind of doing before that? Were you learning self-mastery in your own life, and were you learning different things about psychology and things like that?
Yep. So I've always been a teacher. So I've been a teacher, and then I moved into the field of psychology at the same time. I have worked in schools, so teaching in schools, so teaching whole class of children as well, all about self-mastery, which is really, really exciting. So I was working with those boys because they were referred to me through my psychology practice when I was studying psychology. So that's how they got referred to me. And the referral was, please connect their emotions and thoughts to the experiences they were having, because they weren't having great experiences. They were having very negative experiences, and people didn't like them having those negative experiences. So I got then the opportunity to work with those boys at that point in time. But I mean, I've worked with hundreds of people now. I mean, I've worked with thousands of young people now across my career, spanning, you know, for 10 to 15 years now, if not longer.
But it shifted in that first class when you really got them thinking about things, rather than just teaching them a theory and saying this is what you have to believe. You actually gave them a choice. Yeah.
Yeah, and like there was another little boy that was working in that same area, and he came into my room and he says, I want to come and see you. And I said, oh, why would you want to come and see me? Because you seem to know everything there is to know. And he said, because you made a big difference in their lives, and I want to know what you told them, you know, what you taught them. I want to know that.
It's so heartwarming. I mean, that would be such a big reward for you, wouldn't it, to taking that chance and then having those kids come back and have that feedback.
That's exactly right. And it's some of those kids too that I worked with at that point in time that I took them on further than that. So we did the initial self-mastery work where they got to understand all about themselves. And that's why I call my program Teacher of Me, Myself and I, because we're all teachers of ourselves. And when they get that concept, they realize it's a choice. So part of my mathematical equations is they quickly work out it's a choice. You know, when you say to them, well, who can choose that? Who can choose your energy? Who can choose your thoughts? Who can choose your emotions? And they say, my teachers, my mom, my sister, my brother. I go, what about you? And then the light bulb sort of comes on and go, oh, yeah, I can make a choice. So when they go through my storybook that I've created, that I'll publish this year as well, which is called Teacher of Me, Myself and I, based on 4 characters, owl, turtle, monkey and dragon, and they go on discovery weeks. So how I work now is I take children on different discovery weeks, and we learn all about the skills of self-mastery during those discovery weeks. They create their own discovery journal as well. Because it's all unique to them. It's their learning and it's their connections. And the exciting part is they make so many different connections over the times and such individual connections. And then they share that within the group that we work with, because I do a facilitated online course where I haven't worked one-on-one for years and years now, because there's a richness coming together and working together. So after that first initial point, I stopped working one-on-one, and I realized the value of working together as a group, because we created that as a group, because we just kept putting everybody's ideas in to create the mathematical formulas. So one of my mathematical formulas, it's positive thinking plus positive emotions. I can do this. This is an awesome day and I feel really great. So what's that going to equal? And literally it's a mathematical equation, PT plus PE equals PA, because we're going to have positive actions or positive experiences. The next one is negative thinking plus negative emotions equals a negative action, because once again, we need to value both sides. Especially for our mind health, we need to value the positive. We need to value the negative. We can't have one without the other. It's like a polarity. It's like a battery.
Absolutely. And if the kids think that everything's going to be good, they'll just crash when something bad happens. And I think that's really lovely. And, the jobs that these kids are going to have are not even created yet. But they will be, and this world is moving so fast, but they will be in hubs or in small groups or in a larger groups where they are all brainstorming. So you're absolutely teaching them, real gifts and skills for life.
Absolutely. And then once we work out, then we play around with those mathematical equations. So, I might say to them, well, you've got negative thinking, I can't do this, but you actually feel okay. So what does that equal? So we play around for them to come to their understanding of bringing the negative to the positive. So then they go, oh, I get this now. And that's when I say, don't prove or disprove me. I'm always happy to be challenged in that. And kids love a challenge. If you challenge them,
great, and you're teaching them how to debate, and you're teaching them how to express their own point of view without feeling attacked or without, knocking down somebody else's point of view. I think they're really great skills. I've done a postgrad in mind-body medicine, and I just feel this is highly related to that too, because these kids are going to associate their thoughts with not only their life experience, but also what goes on in their body and their world experience.
That's exactly right. It's all connected, which is really great. And once they start understanding their experience, and I do a lot of experiential work for them to connect to their experiences, because often, like I'm guilty of it as well with my young grandson, for example. I'll say, well, that was a happy, fun time, wasn't it? And we label that for them. But I haven't really checked in with him to make sure it really was a happy and fun time. I didn't quite check out that he really was. I was telling him it was, though. Same with children. We need to give them the experience so they can label it and understand it for themselves. Then that way, what they learn to do then is understand the experiences as they're having them. But more importantly, the exciting part is they can create their experiences. So my first little mantra was changing generations, changing lives one step at a time. And then I went, I'm not actually changing their lives. I'm actually creating their lives. So then they can now create an experience that it is what they want to have, because they understand how experiences are created in the first place. So that's really an exciting part of what we're doing, is we're not just connecting to their mind health and to their emotions, thoughts, and the energy that they're having, but we're actually connecting it one step further to experiences, and getting them to authentically have those and understand their experiences. And what have they learned from that? Now, I learned that concept when I was in my 30s. Somebody first said, and I'm going, what do you mean, what did I learn from that? A lot of heartache, I think, but now they've actually got the concepts from 7 years of age that they can actually learn from every single experience that they have. And then we close the experience loops in our brains, and then we go on having another experience. Because imagine, just think about how many experiences do we have in a day, let alone a lifetime.
I know.
If we continuously have negative experiences, which some little young people do, those experience loops in our brain remain open if they're not closed. If the child can't understand that experience loop in their brain stays open, and then they accumulate lots and lots of them. And then part of my job is to close lots and lots of them, which is why I love.
And then they're in therapy at 40.
Not longer, but that's all good to go. But exactly that. So it's just exciting work to be able to do.
Do you think it also gives them the opportunity to dream? Because I really feel that there are a lot of children and adults who just don't dream anymore. They just don't think that they can have the life that they want. They just don't think that they can dream and be excited about something. They've lost that ability. So of course this is giving them that ability to, well, what does make me feel good and what would make me feel good, and let's expand my mind.
Yeah, definitely. And part of one of the activities that we do, it's towards the end of the course, is exactly that. So they do create a list by that stage of the experiences that they want to have in their life. So they get to do that transitioning of their lives, which is why they were able to, those boys and people that I've worked with, able to connect then to what their passion and purpose is, because they've had the opportunity to dream and understand the experiences, but feel and think about them in depth at that point in time. So we do a lot of work around that. Particularly around experiences as well. So they really understand then what their passion and purpose is, and then they're able to flow into life because they're going, okay, this is exactly what I need to do. This is exactly where I'm going, where I didn't even hear about my passion and purpose, all those terms. As a child, I wasn't taught or even had that conversation. What we're able to do now is have different conversations.
I don't think there's very many families that did. Certainly not my generation. or if you said this is what I want to do, it would be laughed at or poo-pooed, or oh no, you need to be a bit more sensible. You can't do that. You got really stifled. So
that's exactly right. But now we can achieve anything we want to achieve, which is really exciting. So it gives families, because I do have families online at nighttime when I do my courses. So it doesn't matter how many people attend that session. If you've got 4 children and mum and dad, you all come into the course at the exact same price. It doesn't vary. So
I think that's wonderful. So the parents come in too.
Yep. So they come in too.
Do you think that's an important part? Because you're teaching the kids to think in a different way, and if the parents aren't on board, then it's difficult for them at home, isn't it?
It works both ways, actually. So it also works if the parents are not involved, because the concept is that I'm a teacher of myself and I'm teaching myself. They can actually teach the concepts to themselves. So, they can go home and share it with the parents, but because it's so embedded that they're a teacher of themselves, they're teaching themselves about their thoughts. If you have a negative thought, and one of the simple strategies that I use, if they're having a negative thought, it's their choice to say, stop, I don't want that thought. I'm going to choose to have this thought, or I want to have this thought. So I'm teaching them simple strategies that because they're in charge of their mind, they're in charge of their thoughts, and that's a new concept to them as well. I was working with
absolutely new. It's possibly a new concept as many of the parents too.
So it gives parents a different way to have conversations, but it doesn't matter if the parents haven't learned those skills yet as well, because they're learning the skill themselves. So then they go back and share. Now, when I work with groups of people, like in face-to-face groups, what we do is sometimes I work differently in lots of different ways, but sometimes I just purely work with the children. Then the children showcase to the parents on the last week of the course what they've learned. So sometimes then they go on and do the next course with me, which I always do at half price, because the children have always been, and I give children the lead at that point in time. Well, you teach mum and dad now, and you take a lead into that role in my face-to-face group. So there's many different ways that I work, which is really, really exciting. So no 2 groups I ever run are ever the same, because I always tailor it for the people that are in my course. If they want to take a lead role in that, fantastic. I set them up to take that lead role if they've been through the program with me before. So it's just so different. And because each one of us is individually, we're all going to look at it differently. We all have different perspectives on how this is work. No different to the coronavirus today. I spoke to about 100 young people, because I was in a large setting where there was lots of young people. Not all, well, they were all in the same place, but all separated in the same place. And I just went and had the conversation with them. What's your thoughts about the coronavirus? Some have positive thoughts. Some just go, oh, yeah, okay, we're just going to have some extra holidays. How cool's that? You know, other kids came up with some from the negative perspective and the real fear base. And, you know, we unpacked what that looked like, sound like, and felt like, acknowledging that that was real for them at that point in time, and then changed their perspective a little bit on that as well. And some just, and some sat in the middle. But it's just so exciting because no two of those conversations actually were the same.
No, and they're open to learning, and I guess it's a reflection of, you know, the mix in the room would be a reflection of what the environment is where they are and what their parents are saying too. But you're actually giving them the choice to feel how they want to feel about it, no matter what their environment is. So would you call that, like, is that your description of self-mastery? Because once again, we've all got different descriptions of self-mastery as well. So what would your description of it be?
I'm glad you asked me that question, because that's the core of what I do. So I teach the skills. So I teach the skill of breathing, the skill of energy, the skill of thinking. So when we teach it from a skill-based, what we then do is we can master that skill. So what we're doing is mastering the skill of ourselves. So, and we learn those skills, and linking it back to neuroscience. So I also have a heavy neuroscience base for my program as well, is because we do talk about the dendrites. You know, we develop dendrites in our brains. You know, they have those little branches of the trees that connect to our neural pathways, because we now know that we can create our neural pathways. What we need to do, though, the dendrites' job in our brain is for practice, because each one of the skills that I teach does have an element of practice. But when you tell the kids, or teach the kids, tell's not the right word, when you teach the kids about their dendrites and their growing neural pathways in their brains, they actually want to practice. So then practice doesn't become a chore for them. And I also personalize the practice for them. So it depends on how they want to practice. So my definition of self-mastery is the ability to develop a skill that relates to yourself, and you master that skill. So everything's done from a skill base. And that's what makes me unique, in that I teach, you know, breathing as a skill, emotions as a skill. So I don't say that's what you have. I'm teaching it as a skill. Energy is a skill. And the three energy centers I teach are high, centered, and low. Because, you know, when we have high energy, you know, and I don't use the word, I'd like to change the perspective around behavior. Because what behavior is high energy. So sometimes when I work with young people, the parent or the person says to me, this person won't own their behavior. I said, oh, really? Won't they? They said, no. So I'd say to the young person, I'm guessing you had a whole pile of high energy today, didn't you? And he went, yes, I just did this, and this. You know? Because I'm coming from it at a different perspective. So instead of looking at behavior, so they very much work out that their behavior is made up of energy. So, and that they need centered energy for learning. And when we go through the course, we unpack when we need high energy, when we need centered energy, and when we need low energy. Because I say to them, there's no point having low energy if it's bedtime, you know.
I think that's so wonderful. And the other thing that I'm just really noticing is that you're taking these 7-year-olds that typically, you know, people feel that they have to talk down to, or talk in smaller kind of language to, but you're bringing them all this scientific stuff and the big words, and it's not overwhelming them. And, you know, the kids, and this happens every generation that's born has the knowledge of all the generations that have gone before. And we forget that. They're a lot wiser than we are, because they've already been born with all of our knowledge. So to treat them like the same, it's like each generation we think we have to teach the same and in the same way, but it's not. You have to advance that teaching. And I love what you're doing, because they're not getting that in schools, although some schools are changing now. But you're not saying to them, I've got a skill set here that I can teach you, but, you know, you're only 7. You'll have to wait until you're 12. You're just like, you know what? I know that you can get it because you're a smart kid, and let's get explain it in a way that you'll understand it and it will be a mastered skill for life. And they're embracing that trust.
And that's exactly right. I'm using language in a way that they understand.
Yeah.
So that's why I use the word energy rather than the word behavior. So it's all very language based for the children to be able to connect to the ideas, because without using words in a particular way or language in a particular way, the children don't actually connect with those concepts.
No, because as soon as you say bad behavior, that's an emotional, oh, I'm a bad kid. When you say high energy, they're like, yeah, I was a little bit.
And they're happy to own it that way as well, which is really cool. And then they understand it. They go, oh, yeah, that was because I had high energy. If I had centered energy, and then I teach them how to move that energy through their body. So because basically children who are ADHD haven't learned yet to take their body from high to center to low, low to high, center to low. So I play lots and lots of games around that. And when I do teach 25 children in one go, and I have other parents in the room or other people in the room, and I was like, it's okay, I'll bring them, because I'm going to say, we're going to go to high energy. Well, where the behavior goes in 2 minutes, and I give them a signal and I say, now we're coming down to centered energy. As soon as you hear my signal, centered energy. As soon as you hear my signal, low energy. As soon as you hear my signal, high energy. And we just play different games. So then they get the concept that they've got different energy within their body, which is a new way of looking at behavior.
And they're mastering their behavior.
And their energy at the same time. So it all works. See how it all connects, which is really cool.
Well, that's really massive self-mastery, isn't it? And that will not only help them through the education system as they're growing up, but it will help them in real life, like when they're in jobs and in careers.
That's absolutely, and that's because they're going to need different energy at different times within their careers, depending on what career they've chosen. So it's really exciting. When they're innovating, they need to be in that high energy space, high centered energy space to create and to innovate, so then they know exactly what they need to do to get themselves into that energy space and change it really quickly as well. Which is really, really exciting.
And so do you teach online, or do you have like a class at a special school, or do you have the classes at your home? How does it work?
I do teach online at night times. So basically I have anywhere between 2 and 4 families online at the same time, because I want richness in discussion.
In a format kind of like this on video?
Yep, just exactly. I use Zoom. So we just all get onto Zoom and they go through the content. They then do the discovery journal of the night time or during that week. So how I run it is I do a 5-week program for 1 hour of a night time. Generally between 6 and 7 o'clock, or 5 to 7, depending on the people. Sometimes I do Saturdays and Sundays, depending on, and I do lots in the school holidays, all online as well. And then they have the discovery journal that they do from the learning. So I go through and teach them the skill. Then they go away and practice the skill. We work out what that practice is going to look like for them to grow those dendrites and neural pathways. They go away and do their discovery part of the journal, and then they come back and we go through that, and then we go. And sometimes they email me back the discovery journals as well. I get very excited when we've done the nights teaching, or the about around the skill, and then also the next night in comes the discovery journal back.
And how do you find that is a 7-year-old capable of doing questionnaires and doing that stuff?
Absolutely. Sometimes the questionnaire part of it, the parents will do for the 7-year-olds, but it's activities that they can engage in.
Because they're not that good at writing at that age either.
No, it's all drawing or pictures. They can find pictures. So when we look at experiences, part of it, activity 1 is all about me. So they're going to go away and find different pictures of themselves. I'm actually in the process of recording. I've actually got it. She's 10 actually, Miss 10. I'm going to call her. She's actually recorded the discovery journal for me as well. So people, when they can do my course, which will be on my website, they'll actually see her in action. And actually, I'm interviewing her on my Facebook page next week. So she's going to come on and go through and explain to you what that looks like and sounds like, feels like, to be part of the course as well. And I'm also going to be starting to interview some of the young people that have been through the course.
Wonderful.
That want to start sharing their experiences of what that's like as well.
What would the youngest be that you've had?
7 is good. I have worked with 5-year-olds in preps. I have created a prep to 6 curriculum around this to be taught in schools as well, because I have worked in education. I have worked in schools for most of my career. So I know exactly what that looks like to teach, what it looks like, sounds like, and feels like a good Y chart, around what that looks like to deliver in classroom settings. And then I set up the practices for the classrooms as well, and where that fits is in transition time. So it's not like they're teaching a whole different skill. And when I go in and do it in schools, what I do is I model the process for the teachers as well. So and then we take videos and we do resource packages and all of those different types of resources so they can see what that skill looks like. So if they have change turnover in staff, they can say, watch this video, or they can just show the videos as a resource package to the students if that's the way they want to go.
So if there's people listening who have like a 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever year-old kid that is too high energy and doesn't really understand how to control that, are they able to reach out and have private classes with you?
Absolutely happy to do private classes, happy to do, and as I said, I work in many, many different ways. Happy to do any face-to-face if anybody's in Brisbane. Happy to do like families online or 4 families at a time. And once again, as I said, the price doesn't change. So if you've got a family of 4 children, 2 adults, the price is exactly the same as for the next family. So I charge a family price rather than charging an individual price, because I want to, my vision is, and that's why I've called my business Creative Generations Foundations, because I want to create the next generations and I just want to give back. I want as many children as I can in my natural lifetime to learn these skills of self-mastery. So more than happy for as many people as I can. I mean, I had one family a couple of weeks ago who invited the neighbour over from next door to come in with whatever. However that works for you, I'm all good to go with that, because
that's awesome.
And because they have conversations then around that, and they challenge each other, around their practice when they're doing their breathing. Which breathing pattern are you using? And I teach breathing too in different ways. So, because it's a very unique skill for us all to learn in our body, to exercise that diaphragm that's been sleeping for a long period of time.
Absolutely.
But we do different breathing patterns. And then I say to them, and that's how I personalize it, you pick the one that works for you. And like you might use 3 different breathing patterns depending on what the situation is. And where you are at that point in time. So, and what I do is I, once again, have done that uniquely, is because I talk about breathing, but what I'm actually doing is teaching them to circulate the oxygen around their body to connect to their brain, because our brain needs oxygen to think. Our brain needs oxygen to be centered. So instead of using the word breathing, because that can be a bit of a funny word for some people, I use the word oxygen. So once again, using language purposefully to get that transition and that shift into them learning that skill. So I say, is your brain got enough oxygen now? Is that oxygen flowing around your body and connecting to your brain so you can be ready for thinking and ready for learning? So it's a very different concept talking about oxygen in your body rather than talking about breathing, because our words either put us in an emotional space or a thinking space. So
and the normal words when the kids go into learning is, okay, class has begun, sit down, be quiet.
That's it. So I get them ready for learning. But the important part of that, key, is to tell them why. Now, when we went to school, it was backs nice and straight, feet flat on the floor and face to the front. But we weren't actually told why. Now, it's really important for us to sit in that way, because what we're doing is able to circulate the oxygen around our body, connect to our brain, so we are ready for learning.
And how do your students go if there's only one of them in a whole class of people that don't know this stuff? How do they go coping with a teacher that doesn't understand these ideas and these concepts?
once again, that's why I call it the program Teacher of Me, because they're doing the skill anyway. So they're not reliant on everybody else around them knowing that skill. They can just sit with their body nice and straight, feet flat on the floor, focus to the front, and they know that they're circulating the oxygen around their body. So it's not dependent on what other people know around them. It's dependent, and that's why I purposely call my course Teacher of Me, Myself and I, because I'm teaching you the skill. I'm not teaching the whole class the skill if they don't need to, if they're not part of the class that I'm teaching, which is why I've called it Teacher of Me. So they know they've learned the skill of self-mastery, and they get excited about the fact that they've learned the skill.
And they also know that they can sit in a room and master their thoughts, even though other people aren't.
Exactly.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And so people can reach out to you online. They've got the Facebook page up here, and I've also got it in the description, I think. Otherwise, I will pop it in. That would probably be the best page for people to connect with you, do you think? And then any announcements you have about courses, classes, your website, when it's up, will all be on that Facebook page.
Absolutely. Or they can just contact me directly through Messenger as well. If they want to come through and connect with me on Messenger, is another great way to connect as well. So, I'm going to get lots of new offers up there at the present moment. I'm also working on some other packages as well. In terms of mind health, which are just different activities that people can connect with. So there's lots of different ways we can learn, which is really, really exciting.
And at this particular air with this, it's a perfect time because there's going to be a lot of kids home from school for the next couple of months. So it's a brilliant opportunity to, take an hour once a week to really put the kids in front of you so that they can learn something a little bit different than what they've been learning and something about themselves.
And you'll just be amazed on how excited they learn, that they love to learn about themselves, which is really cool.
Absolutely. My grandchildren are the same, and they just soak everything in, and it's like anything new, and it's not just the practical stuff. It's like something new about how they can feel or act. They just soak it in and like, wow, okay, I want to learn that. And I think it's brilliant. You're really bringing lots of self-mastered souls into the planet, which is beautiful. We need it.
And what I love too is when they come up and say, guess what I learned today, so then they start using the language that they've learned something from the experiences that they've had. So that's really exciting when they come up and share that with me, that they've learned something through those experiences, whether negative or positive, So at least now when they've had a negative experience, they actually know that they're going to learn something from that negative experience. It was it was there for a purpose, rather than just having something happen to me that I didn't like.
So I didn't learn that till I was 52.
It was really cool, isn't it, that they get that concept and they get
Imagine if I had learned that at 7.
I know. And I was asked a question once, what would you like, what is one thing you'd like to know now in your lifetime? I said, I want to know this, but I want to know as my 7-year-old self. I want to go back at 7 and actually learn this now.
Absolutely. But we say that, but we can actually give that to the generations growing up now.
Absolutely.
I think it's brilliant.
We're transforming.
And you're one of the Enlightened Changemakers in Holistic Bliss magazine. I've got one here.
Excellent.
This is my copy that got wet in the rain, but I dried it because it's so important.
And I feature in April too, on the second page.
You are, yes.
In the April one, I feature on the second page in there.
You are. I saw that. Yes.
That was really cool.
Yeah. So LK Tommi and I, as well as 12 other beautiful people, are in this Enlightened Changemakers in Holistic Bliss. Yes, the April edition is out now. You can get it online. You've got a spotlight article, which is brilliant. And how has it... that's probably not the right question. How do you feel being in that group of Enlightened Changemakers and bringing your expertise to a new community of people? How do you feel that will impact on you, but also on the people that's going to reach. Is that one of the reasons why you went in it?
I just love the opportunity to connect with lots of different people. It's why I went in it, because I just wanted to connect with as many people as I can. And, you know, it is about the Enlightened Changemakers, is about bringing change to our society. And our society is ready for change. Our society is ready to have a proactive approach to mental health. So to have that opportunity to transform people's lives and being an enlightened change maker was really, really exciting. But yeah, it was all about, for me, connections, getting connected to more and more people for me. Being together in a like-minded community is really awesome.
Oh, it's so beautiful. It just boosts the energy up, doesn't it? And the thing that I really like is that we're all so different. And, you know, there are other people out there in the world doing things for mental health, but you're starting at the core, at the kids, before they get too, you know, overrun with fear and other people's ideas. So, but I love that we're all so different, and yet we all come together in the Enlightened Changemakers collaborative, and the energy just explodes off the page. I think it's wonderful, and we're all getting to know different things that people do. It's super exciting, and it's been lovely finding out what you do tonight and how you're really changing the world. You're changing the world through the kids, but you're changing the world of the kids.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Which is a really exciting part, to be able to have that honor to be able to work in this way. It's really, really, truly amazing.
Absolutely,
it's great to be able to share with them.
Beautiful.
Yeah, what they're going to need to know for their lifetimes, which is awesome.
That's for sure. It's just really powerful work. So everybody listening, in the description is LK Tommi's Facebook page, and I've also got it in the thing here, but the link will actually be in the description, so you just click on it. So please message her, connect with her, find out how she can help your child or your school, or, you know, bring a group of your friends together. You can all just join her classroom online. It can all be virtual or in person. It's very simple. And reach out, and I'm sure she will give you all the advice that you need. So thank you.
Thank you.
So it's been amazing. And I love the work that you're doing.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity. It's an awesome opportunity, and I totally love how you're spreading the message out there for other people as well. So it's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. And thank you, everybody, for joining in. I look forward to seeing you next week on TrishRockTV. Bye for now.
Okay. Bye-bye.